King as the official interim city manager. Welcome. If you could just take the roll, please.
Alderman Ruth Simmons, Alderman Suffredin, Alderman Ravel, Alderman Rainey, Alderman Fleming, Alderman Fisk, Alderman Braithwaite, Alderman Nguyen, Alderman Wilson.
All right, great. We have a quorum this evening for the Monday, September 30th, 2019 Evanston City Council meeting. Shana Tova to all of our Jewish friends and family. Happy New Year. I apologize that we had to have a meeting on Rosh Hashanah, but there was a deadline that is related to the item that we had to put on the agenda tonight. So that is why we're here to talk about that item. I know that Alderman Nguyen and Alderman Suffredin, I believe, couldn't be here this evening, and I think Alderman Ruth Simmons will be here, so she should be here shortly. With that, we'll go into public comment. As everybody knows, we set aside 45 minutes for public comment, up to 3 minutes per person, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 people for public comment tonight. And so I would just ask that folks be respectful of the time. Welcome, City Clerk Reed. And be respectful. The City Clerk will just keep track of the time and the 3 minutes that we have on that. So we're now going to move into public comment. So Virginia Mann will be the first person, then Mike Vasilko, then Jackie P. Welcome, Virginia.
Thank you all. It's good to see all of you, and thank you all for working this evening for this special session. 23 years ago, when I moved into Evanston, Howard Street was a blighted nightmare. I would never have thought about going there for dinner or to meet friends for drinks or to walk, even drive down the street, let alone walk down there. We've seen a tremendous transformation in that area that has added a viable community to our city, has increased our tax base, has made it a destination for people not only from Evanston, but from the Chicago area. Going to the Peckish Pig is always incurs a wait for a table. And so the transformation has been great, except that there's one property there still in the area that for 19 years has been vacant, that continues to deteriorate on a daily basis. You have an opportunity tonight to change that, and I encourage you strongly to do just that. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Virginia. Next, we got Mike Vasilko, then Jackie P.
Mike Vasilko, 2728 Reese. I did circulate my comments to you earlier, but I'm just going to read them into the record as well. It's just amazing to me that this is now the second project in a matter of weeks where an applicant is looking for a discount on property taxes in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, with Hune Bakery, there was absolutely, no discussion on this council about that. There was no requirement to have any minority hiring for that tax giveaway. Here we are again with Peckish Pig, and the person who's trying to buy the property, if they can afford to buy the property, they certainly can afford to pay the property taxes. It just, sooner or later, all these tax giveaways come back to bite us in the ass, and the people that end up paying for it are the people that live in Evanston. It's not, this is a commercial for-profit company that deserves to pay their property taxes. And this shouldn't even be for action tonight. This should be for introduction. I've read the document 2 or 3 times. I have to admit, I have a hard time understanding it all, and I think other citizens who haven't even been aware of it deserve the right to be able to be introduced to it and to have it voted on at a later time. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Alderman Suffredin said so much in the reply that you all saw. It should be held, discussed tonight, introduced tonight, but held for vote at a later time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Jackie P. Oh, Jackie's back. All right. Yeah.
Talking about.
That is. It's been a long time, Jackie. Welcome back. You can give your full name for the record so we get that in as well.
Okay, my name is Jackie Prince. Hello, Mayor Haggerty and City Council members. First of all, I'd like to speak about non-agenda items. I'd like to thank everybody for the help that we were given and for the help that Connections for the Homeless is given. And I'd like to mention that Betty Bogg, who I actually met through one of these City Council meetings, has been doing a tremendous job in making right all the wrongs that had been done for years and people weren't getting housed. And I walked into the library and I didn't see pretty much any homeless people. I would like to say that there are some people who were homeless and are still homeless who have medical issues, and I can't go a few blocks without finding them. So I do need to ask that you guys, or that Connections for the Homeless is more proactive in getting out there and getting those people. Because as a person who has been housed for about 14 months now, I know how long it takes to get back to some sort of normalcy. And now I know how much I was not thinking like I would normally think. So these people can't even make good decisions for themselves. So please be intercessors for them. What else did I want to say? So Connections for the Homeless and the staff under Betty Boggs, they're doing a really good job at trying to change things. The other thing I want to say is I was not here for the meeting when we said goodbye to our former chief of police, and I'm sorry I didn't do that because I think he was a tremendous person. And he just made good inroads for the city of Evanston. And I'm glad that we have a new chief in office, and I hope that, he strives to do the same, and I think he will, because he was a former police officer. I have other things to say, but they're more on the negative side, so I'll save that for another day. Anyway, good to see you all. We are housed. Thank you so much. We thought we'd give you a break, but people can turn their lives around. Right now, though, there's a fight brewing in regard to asking for donations and businesses against the people fighting for their rights, and the police who may sometimes side with the businesses. But the police, I also have to say thank you to the police officers, because they've done tremendous jobs in helping me in my life when I needed it. We still have to work on, knowing some of the policies and things like that for the city of Evanston for the newer officers. But thank you. Good to see you guys again. And that's all I'm out here.
Thank you, Jackie. It's nice to see you. Thank you. All right. We've got Jeannie. I apologize if I mispronounced the names. Sankey. All right. So Jeannie, and then we got Bennett Johnson, then Mayor Radzinski.
Good evening to many of my former colleagues here on the dais. My name is Jeannie Zanke, and I have lived in the 8th Ward. Last week on Wednesday marked 13 years since I moved into Clyde Avenue. 6 years ago, I was here to talk to all of you when Peckish LLC came for final approval to start on the Peckish Pig. And I said to you back then that the wonderful thing about Howard Street at that neighborhood at that time was that if we had a lucky platter, it would be a perfect neighborhood. We've surpassed that neighborhood in the meantime because Peckish had a chance to take root and flourish along with Ward 8, the cider company, the theater. The world has changed on Howard Street, and for the people who came to you and said that the projects there were doomed, that they were going to cost the city money, I simply refer you to the amount of liquor tax that has been collected over the last 5 years, actually 7 years because of Ward 8. We know that when we build it, they come. The dollars do follow. Moreover, as a neighbor in that neighborhood, I can tell you it has enriched the quality of our lives on a daily basis. The Peckish Pig is not simply a business on the corner. They are our neighbors. They are part of us. They are part of the fabric of a true and vibrant, diverse community, and we are diverse in every way. Not everyone eats at the Pig, but everyone appreciates the Pig. You will hear an occasional voice that will say, but the parking. In honesty, as someone who parks a car in the neighborhood, I can tell you in the last year, parking has improved. It has improved significantly. We do not consider this an issue but for a few naysayers. The overwhelming majority of us are excited at the possibility that this building will finally come into good use. It has been truly a blight in our neighborhood for 20 years. It is crumbling before our eyes, quite literally. I put in calls every couple of months to 311 because there are trees growing in the gutters. We know the work that this group does. We know what they will bring to our neighborhood. We are looking forward to this. We genuinely are excited that this is going to add to our lives, and we are relieved that this blight is going to end, and we urge you all strongly, please support this. Please give it your vote. We thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Bennett Johnson, then Mary Rosinski, then Evie Russell.
Mayor Haggerty, Clerk Reed, members of the council. In order to indicate how long I've been around, the term Howard Street when I grew up was where we went to get liquor because you couldn't buy it in town, and wine. So Howard Street has the significance to me in that sense, but also in what I'm concerned about, which is economic development. I spent a greater part of my adult life involved in primarily minority economic development. And now I'm working with a group of minority contractors, Evanston Minority Business Consortium. And my concern is that the activities that are going on, development activities, especially rapid crime, have in no way hired local contractors and local people for the jobs, which is, to me, a very negative thing because the only two entities that local entities get any revenue out of this project are the Evanston Lumber Company and Ozinga. But the contractors and the people who are looking for jobs have had difficulty, and I think the record will show it. The idea is, again, like we talk about Howard Street and economic development, is that when people have jobs in our community, there's less crime, there's less homelessness. That's all the related social ills that accompany low income and poverty. So there's a cost to the city. It's not only do we not get the revenue to the community, but there's a cost, a burden that's carried by city government. So I think that we have to look at what's going on, and I think we haven't done that. We mean you who have the responsibility, because we who are outside of it know it's not going on correctly. So there needs to be a change, not only to monitor what's going on, but also to change the goals and system for awarding local contractors and hiring local people. There's always been some concern about if we stress this too much, they would avoid Evanston. But I think we can see that everybody wants to come to Evanston. What's going on in town, as far as housing development and building, is phenomenal, probably the most in the history of the city. So if we want to build a better Evanston in a real sense, we have to build not only the buildings, but also the people who live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bennett. All right, we got Mary Rosinski, Evie Russell, then Doreen Price.
Hi, Mary Rosinski. I'm here to just kind of get you ready for the NU text amendment, and I just want to really stress, we're going to be sending information packets to all of you, hoping that you will take time before you deliberate it, and because the NU text amendment that's coming up is not a light change. It's something that's really a change of use for the largest non-tax paying, property tax paying person, one owner asking to change use from a nonprofit to a commercial use. This is incredibly significant, being that for the last 40 years, this has been fought by every city council, and it's gone to the Illinois Supreme Court, and the amount of potential money that it is projected coming in on this will far be lost in the loss of potential tax and appreciation property values over there, loss of business tax revenue from the businesses who have to close down when there's a big Northwestern game. So I just really I know we need money in this budget, and I want to be part of a solution, but I would hate to see us exacerbate it by passing this. I also want to address what Bennett said a little bit, because he's 100% right in that economics. We have to help do jobs training in this city, and I have a very, very, very close friend whose life was turned around because of the Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse, and they got the opportunity to go through the program and get a job. He shadowed with someone, and now he's been working for a year at a Glenview HVAC guy, learning that, and they're going to send him probably for further teaching. So we can get these kids, and he was on the verge of gangs. So to see him go all the way this way is so important, and I think we can really use our jobs in this city and our construction jobs and help these kids get training and adults, young adults, not just kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Evie Russell, Doreen Price, and then Brad Glueski.
Hello, I'm Evie Russell. I'm going to give you another gem from the past. At the April 1996 ZBA, board member Weinberger and zoning lawyer Jerry Callahan asked Jack Friedman, NU's Director of Facilities and Operations, about basketball traffic impact. Jack: basketball games, there's traffic, and I won't deny it is, can get really jammed. We're constantly reviewing it, trying to get them in the parking lots as quickly as possible. 7 o'clock is a tip-off, so you're catching little things, including informing the hospital that they have to be out of the lot earlier. The fact remains Central is the main street coming in. At that time of the evening, you're going to have a traffic problem with the Big Ten basketball games, because a lot of times that's the only way people know to come into our area in particular. Weinberger: how bad is the impact at the end of the game in terms of Central? Jack: people parked in the north ends of our lots are forced to go north. We do not let them turn and head into Central, so we funnel and make them and push them out, including the east lot. We push them back east and try to limit the impact at that section of Ashland, and particularly Central and Green Bay, where it can really back up. By diffusing them out through Wilmette and down through Parkwood, down 5th Street, and right out into the various areas, we're able to limit that. Jerry: you said that basketball games cause problems in terms of traffic and parking problems in your neighborhood? Jack: I said there's traffic problems. Evanston restricts parking in the streets around Ashland Central, that kind of thing. Jerry: and that's where the traffic goes, is on the streets in the neighborhood around there? Jack: I assume so, yeah. Jerry: it causes congestion in the neighborhood? Jack: congestion on Central that I know of down to Ashland when we get them in the parking lots. Jerry: and on some of the residential streets in the neighborhood like Eastwood and Chancellor and Livingston, that's true also? You're aware that there is traffic that goes down those streets? Jack: Eastwood is a direct access from Central to Isabella. I wouldn't doubt that. Today, NU compares the large basketball games to the proposed for-profit events in order to claim no impact on the neighborhood. How is that possible? The 1996 neighborhood had the same physical layout as today, and in fact, a smaller demographic imprint than today. 1996 basketball games, which were indeed even smaller attendance than today, were causing traffic problems, as Jack testified. Is it honorable to unleash part of NU's traffic onto Wilmette for the proposed additional 13 days of events? And if not, where is that traffic going to go?
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Doreen Price is next, and then Brad Gluzewski.
Thank you for accepting this online. One thing I'd like to reiterate is that with regard to the Northwestern problem, which was discussed at Eleanor's recent 7th Ward meeting, it became obvious to me that Northwestern could be doing more, obviously. And the thing that sounded so easy is but a parking lot. So if they're not building on their property, why not build a parking lot especially if they don't want to build on their own, build on the 5th Ward to help with economic development, as Ben Johnson was talking about the fact we need economic development in the 5th Ward, and also in terms of Robert Crown. That would be a really, really good social benefit that could be worked in to appease some of the people in terms of where's our money going if we make businesses more accessible to people who would not normally go into the 5th Ward or these other areas. And then this has to do with the proposal. What are your asks about tonight's special council plan? And this is to the mayor and the city manager and the city clerk and the city council. What are the real benefits you see to offset discounted revenues? If this sounds like Kimberly Richardson's spin-off on the budget, it's pretty much so. Was land underappraised if its intended use is worth much more? How is it different than the rock climbing wall sale, which I learned the price of an empty lot is reflected on its value? Was that reflected in what we got as a city? What is the proposed effect of the upcoming levy that the council will end up asking for? We need to know that, and who will decide, and how will it be decided? Will spending items be reduced in the budget or dropped and what are the priorities? This new start that we're doing with regard to the budget. Can there be an offset benefit, and this gets into Ben Johnson's offset benefit for the disparaging increase in taxes by low-income residents? Because we know in terms of proportion of their homes and everything else, the value of their homes, we pay more with smaller homes than larger homes, and that's been reported in the news and for this all of the state of Illinois. So we know that's a problem, but you're adding to it. Can a 501c like ECF, the Evanston Community Foundation, which Eleanor mentioned last year and I remembered, take tax-deductible donations for reparations for the homelessness prevention fund that was or still is in the Health and Human Services Department? Aside, can you advocate for the budget to increase support for Health and Human Services? And this is not too much of an aside, but I thought I'd point it out as such. And Yvonne gave to Wally's asks in 2019 budget that was televised that bit off key functional support. A crucial self-supporting, well-connected grants professional was removed. Why would you remove someone who brings in more income than they cost? I mean, that is like some budget thing that I could never figure out. This brings in needed community revenue that's not happening, and there are places for it, there's placeholders for it. They exist, and we're not doing it to rebuild, restore, and transform. So then one last thing is Ike and his downgraded new hire this year are doing the work of 4+ people, Director Thomas Smith. Kimberly, can we correct this for 2021? The budget, the city's proclamation demands good faith efforts, and the residents need good jobs. Going back to Bennett,
We're at our 3 minutes.
So we have to pursue this very seriously in terms of whenever we're doing something in terms of economic development that we really and truly include, as everyone else is saying, community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. All right, Brad, come on up, and are you Brad?
I didn't sign off.
Oh, well, give me 1 second. So do we have Brad Gluszewski here? All right, seeing no Brad, you'll be our last speaker. Come on up and just introduce yourself.
Okay, you've seen me before?
We have.
A few weeks. I'm Ken Prosky. I live at 1323 Chancellor. I don't have any really prepared remarks, but I want to tell you a story about how big crowd traffic at Welsh Rhine Arena affects me and Hog-Eye Music. I started taking guitar lessons in 2006, and I went to Hog-Eye Music, which is about a half a mile from my house. It takes 3 minutes to drive. But during Welsh Rhine events and football games, 45 minutes. 30 minutes at best. So on those days, it was a nightmare. My wife started to drop me off and wait in the alley in her car because she couldn't get a parking place. And she would go home and then come back, and she couldn't be back on time. So I eventually just started to walk to the, if there was an event and I knew that I had to be there, I would walk. So it'd take me 10 to 15 minutes carrying a guitar. And this happened, not every time, but several times a year I would have to do that. Eventually I just quit. I started going somewhere else. Jim lost my business at Hawkeye, and I found another place. So it affected me, it affected a business on Central Street. Jim is one of the people that signed the petition against the U2 zoning amendment. He hasn't come here, I haven't seen him here, but I know he wasn't happy. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for coming out, Ken. All right, and thank you everybody for coming out for public comment tonight. There's the list for Clerk Reed. We're now going to move into the agenda. As I mentioned, we have one item of business. It was placed onto the agenda because of the time-sensitive nature, and Alderman Rainey can go into what the deadlines were and so forth. But so we just have one item in the public agenda tonight. Alderman Rainey, could you go ahead and introduce SP1?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. SP1 is Resolution 94R19, endorsing the application of 619 Howard Street LLC to the Cook County Assessor for Class 7A status designation for commercial development of the vacant property located at 611, 621 Howard Street. The Economic Development Committee, which met last week, recommends the City Council adoption of this resolution endorsing the application of 619H LLC to the Cook County Assessor for Class 7A status designation for the commercial development of the vacant property located at 611 through 21 Howard Street in Evanston, Illinois, and it's for action.
Is there a second?
I move approval.
Second. Okay. All right, it's open for any conversation.
Could I
Alderman Rainey,
speak to it?
yes. Alderman.
Well, just give me some time here so I can explain this. First of all, there's been some discussion that this is surprise and it's been put on this agenda without any notice or warning. First of all, this should have been on the second meeting in September agenda. However, because of the Hune controversy, which was a 6B, we all agreed that any item regarding a county tax incentive should go to economic development first. So fortunately, right after the second meeting in September, there was an economic development meeting, which was, the September 25th, 24th? So it was put on that agenda. So this was noticed, the economic development agenda was noticed on the city website on September 20th. That was 10 days ago. The world has had notice of the 7A request for support since September 20th. It has been on it was on the council website. The members of the committee were notified of it. Members of the community were notified of it. The Economic Development Committee met, and the committee reviewed it, discussed it, and passed it unanimously. And what we passed unanimously was we recommended to the council that they agree to recommend to the county, not that we give them the incentive, but that we recommend to the county that the county consider 619 Howard, the 19-year most vacant, the building vacant most since 2001, that they please consider this building for a 7A tax incentive. This is very different than the 6B tax incentive, which was for an industrial property. There was controversy about that because there were lots of bakeries evidently on Central Street, and the building hadn't been vacant very long. This is different, and also I took Commissioner Suffredin to the property, and I showed him the property. He had been familiar with that building, but he had never really looked at it. And I took him to the building, and he looked at the building, and his very words were, "Oh my goodness, this is exactly the kind of property that the 7A incentive was created for." This building, when you look at it, has crumbling plaster coming up out of the floor and coming down from the ceiling. Every day, when you talk about vacant buildings costing cities money, the city of Evanston, as Ms. Sankey might have mentioned, I mean, they could be over there every day citing something, but we've really just, I've told her I've just given up, asking people to go over and cite it. Every day, somebody etches something on those windows. It is wall-to-wall windows on 3 sides of the building. No longer do I ask the city to go over. It's, nobody paints anything on the building because it's all etching. So this building, you have to ask yourself, why, when everything else on Howard Street, from Ridge Avenue down to the tracks, has been redeveloped, why does it sit empty for 19 years? There's got to be a reason. Maybe one of the reasons is that 8 feet from the basement, 8 feet up on the wall, there's a water line. Maybe the reason is it's going to cost over $1 million just to be able to get any kind of occupants in there. Every single ounce of electric has to be replaced. The roof has to be replaced. There's no plumbing in there. You have to replace all the plumbing. Not only that, the person who bought the building from Sherwin-Williams flipped it within a month. It was sold for $467,000, and the buyer, who I believe to this day, I hope I don't, get sued for slander, but I believe it was a crooked deal. And that buyer put it on the market for double that price, immediately put it on the market for double the price. However, fortunately, we had a good Samaritan by the name of Dr. Eldabani, who was with North Shore Medical, who, sitting at Peckish Pig, said, "Oh, I noticed that building's for sale. It's a perfect event space." Dr. Eldabani can afford the taxes. He can afford the taxes, but that's the only incentive around. He can't afford the taxes, $1 million+ to get it up and running, and then all of the other expenses that go to hiring, et cetera, et cetera. This building, once it gets renovated, in order to get it renovated, going to hire 50 people to construct the renovation. Dr. Eldabani has said, "I've been here for 30 years. Of course I'm going to hire Evanston residents, everyone I can possibly hire. I live here." He's an Evanston resident. He already pays Evanston taxes. Of course he's going to hire Evanston residents. He has been through, this isn't something that we haven't already had. Over a year ago, we went through the whole process of approving every single step required to approve an event space in Evanston. We've had this project before us. Mr. Eldabani has been paying the taxes on this building even though he doesn't own it. This is here because he was told by the so-called, the sellers of this property, that if he didn't close by October 1st, they were going to extort another $10,000 out of him. Because he's now going to be able to close by October 4th, because it would take 5 days to get the water bill straightened out, he's only going to have to pay $5,000. So that is another reason why we'd like it handled tonight. He's going to be providing the city with approximately $55,000 in liquor taxes a year, hired 12 employees. This isn't about Peckish Pig. Peckish Pig already has these events at their space. What this is going to do is it's going to keep so many events from going out to Skokie to the so-called Evanston Golf Club, because there's no other event space in Evanston that can handle that number of people. They've already got people lined up. They probably shouldn't have done this, but they've got people already scheduled to be in this event space that nobody else can handle in Evanston, because there's going to be enough space there. This is not going to hurt anybody. He's going to get a break on the taxes so that all these other things can happen. This is, I don't know what the phrase is, a pound foolish, what is that expression? Penny wise and pound foolish, that's what it is. Let's not do that. Let's not say, I mean, I did not vote for the additional sales tax. I did not vote for that, because I know these kinds of things, development in this town is the way to go. That is the way to take care of everybody. Let's do more development. Every single penny that we're getting off Howard Street is helping everybody in this town. I know downtown flourishes and we get, millions and millions of dollars, but you never got anything from this street, ever, ever. I know one store on Howard Street never paid a nickel sales tax in its entire existence, but they still operated. Now now it's all legitimate. And I'm asking you to make this place legitimate. It has been there making a fool of that street for 19 years. Let's make it legitimate. Let's support this event space. Let's make it legitimate. All we're doing is recommending it. The county might find something wrong with it. I hope to God they don't. But when Larry Sefferden says that this building is one of the reasons 7A was created, and he says he had no problem with us approving this, and he's a commissioner that is going to support this, I'm just saying, please, please, let's support this.
Thank you, Alderman.
You're welcome.
And we did, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Commissioner Sufferin did send a letter in support of this as well to the council. Okay.
Well, he sent it to you, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay, so I'm sorry. He did then send it. I saw that from Commissioner Sufferin earlier. I'll forward it on to everybody so you can see that.
I think the letter said no objection, which is just for clarification. I wasn't there, but the letter says no objection, which is different than support.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, well, I work for the commissioner.
All right, I'll forward it on to everybody.
Not with me.
All right, any more discussion? Seeing no more lights, then we've got a motion that was moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, sounds like we've got 2 opposed, which was Alderman Fisk and Alderman Fleming. Is that correct? Was there anybody else opposed? Okay, so SP1 Resolution 94-R-19 endorsing the application for the property at 611 to 621 Howard Street for a 7A status designation passes the Evanston City Council on a 5-2 vote. Okay. Now we're going to go into executive session. Before we do that, Alderman Fleming, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just was gonna, I don't know where he went. The facilitator of the training was here, and I'd asked him just to come and introduce himself to the public, so you had an idea, but he might be in the automatic line.
Okay.
Oh, maybe he's coming. Sorry, I didn't know somebody going to finish. All right, well, I can, we're going into executive session to do the racial equity training that we committed to earlier this year. The facilitator is a professor at Northwestern University who runs the Center for, I believe, Race and Democracy is what it's called, and has extensive teaching, obviously running the Center on Race, Government, and a variety of issues in that area. So I don't know where he went. He was here. I was going to have him introduce himself.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for organizing that, Alderman. Alderman Wilson, can you just read us,
Wait, I have a
excuse me,
question.
Alderman Rainey?
Why are we going into executive session? I've not understood that.
So this training, this equity training that we're doing is an executive session. We've got Brad Cole from Illinois Municipal IML League, who's here. We're authorized via that to go into executive session for this training.
I don't understand.
I mean, I could ask Mr. Cole if you wanted to explain the rule, but
I'd like
there's
to
a rule that allows
Okay,
us
that's
to
what
go
I
into
want to
executive
know.
session.
I remember reading it someplace, but I didn't understand it.
Well, we'll educate everybody. Well, welcome, Brad, and thank you for being here.
Thank you,
can
Mayor.
go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm
as
Brad
well.
Cole, with Executive Director of the Illinois Municipal League. There is a provision in the Illinois Open Meetings Act that allows for a village board or city council to conduct a closed session meeting for the purpose in accordance with 5 ILCS 122C16, which is for the discussion inclusive of self-evaluation purposes and other items that the council may deem important. And so as long as there is a representative of a statewide body for which the city is a member, the city is a member of the Illinois Municipal League, and I am the representative of that statewide body. As long as I'm in attendance for that meeting and the discussion stays pertaining to the exception as laid forth in the statute, then the council can have such closed meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
The trainer is coming. Sorry, just if you all are interested.
All right, sure. Okay, we're just going to go ahead. Professor, come on up and introduce yourself, and why don't you just describe the training that the council's about to go through so the public knows, and then I'm going to ask Alderman Wilson just to read us into executive session.
Okay, thanks. Well, my name is Al Tillery, and I teach at Northwestern. The training is going to be about racial equity. How do we promote it in government affairs, and how do we think about how the work that you do does no harm? That simple.
Terrific, thank you. We're happy to have you here
Thank you.
facilitating that conversation.
And may I say one more thing? I'm sorry, just for the public, because I know people talk a lot about spending money. The professor is a resident of Evanston and is doing this training pro bono for us, so there should be no questions about how much money we're paying.
Great, thank you, Alderman. Alderman Wilson.
Which is also greatly appreciated. So thank you. So pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding self-evaluation practices, procedures, or professional ethics. This agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in executive session, and the enumerated exception under the Open Meetings Act is 5 ILCS 120/2AC16.
Terrific. Is there a second? Okay, City Clerk, you take the roll.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Yes.
Alderman Ravel? Yes. Alderman Rainey? Yes. Alderman Fleming? Alderman Fisk? Alderman Braithwaite? Alderman Wilson?
All right, on a 7-0 vote, the Evanston City Council has recessed into executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening.